Okay, hello everyone, welcome back to Breakage Barriers. My name is Blessing, aka Lady B. I've been off for a while because I had a pressing need to attend to something more paramount than putting out a video out there. So I'm back. So good to be back. Anyways, women and marriage. A lot of women want to get married. Depending on the culture you find yourself as a woman, it's usually because there's a level of responsibility attached to being married. When, like in the African culture, when you look at when women are married, they are seen as settled and more responsible, and that status, married, commands respect to a certain level. So the man is seen like a covering over the woman in the African culture. So women feel kind of empowered when they have that covering over them. In most cases, this is usually one of the reasons why women in Africa feel so pressured by society to get married. When they are not married, they are seen as easy targets of stigma. They are often called prostitutes. They are often called very derogatory names. And so it is a bit difficult to command the level of respect that is required by that society. So this is one of the reasons. Another reason is scientists do find that women in societies, regardless of the location, women generally in any society, in any culture, outnumbers the men. And the best answer to that is usually men are the ones who go to war. Men are the ones who do most of the jobs in society. So this we'll be looking into. But first, I want you to press that red button to subscribe and the bell close to it, the notification bell, to get notified whenever I upload in the future, so you can watch more videos. Yeah. So for us to be able to discuss this matter, we have to look into polygamy. The reason why polygamy exists in Africa and still continue to exist in Africa is because it is historical and it is being passed from one generation to another. So it has become a tradition. Up until today, although in most countries in Africa, polygamy is termed illegal. But when you look at the customary law of the same countries, polygamy is allowed. So people still follow that tradition of polygamy. But again, polygamy, from people's experiences, it can be really detrimental. You know, we see that children are affected adversely, women are affected, and sometimes even the men who take up these women are not able to manage them properly, and then their life is shortened. So there's a lot of negativity attached to polygamy. Many people who come from a polygamous family often come out with bad experiences. Although the culture still permits it, most people do not want to go on that pathway. And I don't know if most Africans know that. You see the story in the Old Testament, the Bible. If you pay a great attention to the Old Testament narratives, there's a lot of similarities with what happened in the Old Testament, how that culture was during that time, with what is being practiced in today's Africa. So there's a lot of similarities, and it's the belief that that story in the Old Testament is actually attached and can be traced to Africa. That Old Testament story, some scientists and theologians have come to find that it's an African ancient story, or shall we say religion. But that aside, I'm going to discuss that in another topic entirely. Today, let's focus on polygamy. So polygamy, we'll start with the positives and why polygamy was practiced and very common in the ancient African culture. It is found that because men outnumbered women, women were viewed as economically disadvantaged. To be able to kind of support the women in the African ancient culture, these women were taken as wives, concubines, and they were taken in their droves. That's why you see in the Bible where one man has 100 wives, 200 wives, and 300 wives, as in the case of Solomon. But Solomon's case was a very good example of the disadvantages and advantages of polygamy. I don't think people actually learn from that narrative, because if they actually learn from Solomon's narrative, then they will come to realize where polygamy actually stands, whether positive or negative. But anyways, let's go on with this. In those days, when men have more than one wife or many wives, it was seen as a positive thing in the ancient African culture. It was allowed, or it was the normative. People were doing it, and it went on for generations. It was seen as helping the society at that time. But again, like I said, up until now, in some African countries, it is still allowed and they still practice it. Another point is polygamy was seen as combating promiscuity amongst women. So rather than have the women unmarried, men were encouraged to marry them in order to combat promiscuity. Third, because of the physical limitation, women are not as physically strong as men. So when they have the men around, it was a form of protection. When these women get married in the ancient African culture, they were protected, they felt protected, they felt safe. So if any other man wants to come attack them, because there's a man around them, they are protected. It was a form of protection. In that day and age, women were targeted sexually. And we could see the examples of this in the Old Testament, in the case of Abraham and Sarah, when they were on a journey, and the king in that location actually wanted to take Sarah as one of his concubines, because men were popularly in leadership positions. The women needed such protection. These are just few of the positives of polygamy. Fourth, because of the economical disadvantage, women couldn't take care of themselves properly, and of course the children properly on their own without having a man around to provide, since men were seen as providers, and they were actually providers. So having that man, it was like a form of umbrella really, so over the woman. So having that man around, the woman could provide for herself, care for herself, and care for her children. So these are just the few advantages of polygamy. And that view from that era still presently occurs in this era, most especially in Africa, and of course some other cultures around the world. But again, we have to understand that humanity has come a long way, and we have evolved, and a lot of things have changed. In this era, women are capable of doing so many things that they were not able to do in the ancient African culture. Today, women are still looked upon with that same lens, but we must understand that today women do work and get very good jobs as well. Women are able to do so many things themselves today, which brings about friction between the man and the woman, because this is a tradition that has been passed on from generations. So that mentality is still there, because when you look at Africa at large, I mean the present African culture, there's still a lot of the ancient culture that has been preserved, because this culture has not just been passed on a written book or something, but it's been passed on orally. The oral tradition of preserving culture was the normative in the ancient African culture. They passed on this tradition orally, so they train the next generation, for that generation to be able to train the upcoming generation, and it goes on and on and on. And so today it's been really difficult to kind of erase that culture entirely, because again, some Africans still have that belief. And so you see in places, especially in West Africa, where I come from, a lot of these traditional rulers like kings, they still marry a lot of women. And to make matters worse, they just don't marry women, they marry young ladies up to the age of 18. You see a 60 years old man who has many wives from the ages of 50, 40, 30, 20, even up to 18 years old. Still, that tradition is still being practiced, and they see it as normal. They see it as acceptable ancient practice, and so they see nothing wrong with it. They believe it kind of fights against the other cultures, like for example in the West, polygamy is not promoted at all. Monogamy is the normative in the West. Some of the arguments that I get from polygamy is that they rather have polygamy than have a man marry a woman and have to divorce the woman, then marry another one, divorce that one, then marry another one, you know, which to some Africans is promoting promiscuity. But again, how certain is it that most of these women who are married in a polygamous setting are actually faithful to the man they profess their love to? How sure are we? Because there are so many stories out there of some of these women who are married to a polygamous man, but yet go around frolicking with other men. We shall continue this topic in another video, all right? With this, I say thank you very much for watching. See you some other time. Take care now. Bye.